Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new week. Hey, I heard this week. No, I saw this today, earlier today. So today's Monday. So let's roll into it like a boss. Now I don't know what that means, but it must means we got to get we got to get started. We got to get going. In fact, I'm a few minutes early. Not that I would really be early, because this is just about this time is when we start every day, Monday through Friday. I'm glad you're tuning in today. A lot going on this time of the year. New school year is about to begin. In Carterville, the schools have already started. In fact, today would be the fourth day of classes. So they're well on their way. I know that Trico school system starts, for most people, starts tomorrow. And then the first day of classes for Southern Illinois University, SIU, at Carbondale, Illinois, those classes, first day of class begins on August the 18th. So we've got a lot to go on this August. As I said before, this month is a month of transition, right? We transition from summer into fall, into the school year. Hey, I want to begin with a joke this morning, all right? So listen up, so that you get it. So here's the joke, right? Why don't content people play hide and seek? Why don't content people play hide and seek? Well, the answer is simple: because they're not looking for anything. They're content. Do you think that was funny? I know. I thought it was kind of funny, and I realize that I'm not funny when I tell my jokes. In fact, I was on a Zoom meeting last week, and I told a joke, and nobody laughed. And then it was then that I realized that I was not even remotely funny. That's even funnier. Okay. This week, Coffee with Wes. My name is Wes. This is the Coffee. I serve as the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Cutler in Cutler, Illinois. And before we go any further, I just want to say, yesterday we had a great service, great worship service. We were able to recognize a member who had been the treasurer of the church for 45 years. 45 years. Started back in 1980, in July of 1980. And he concluded his service in July of 2025. 45 years. And so we recognized him for his ministry, for his dedication, for his commitment to the Lord, for using the gifts that God had given him, the talents and the abilities, to God's honor and to God's glory. And we had a big meal, sit-down meal afterwards. Hey, listen, if you're ever around Cutler, that area, Steelville, Percy, all that area, if you need somebody to cater your food, Steelville Market in Steelville, man, that's the place to go. We got fried chicken, we had mashed potatoes, we had corn, we had green beans. It was wonderful, great meal. The chicken was perfect. And I'm a preacher, and preachers and fried chicken, hey, that was delicious. Steelville Market in Steelville, Illinois. Worth the drive to get them. Anyway, I digress. So this week, Coffee with Wes, we're going to look at the character trait of contentment. So here's the big idea. True contentment is found not in changing circumstances, but true contentment is found in trusting in God's unchanging power and provision. So it's not changing circumstances that brings contentment. It is trusting God's unchanging power and provision. And we're going to unpack Philippians chapter 4, verses 10 through 20. So you can go ahead and read through that this week, because we'll be referring to that passage all week long. So in Philippians, Paul wrote this letter to the Christians in Philippi, and he writes it from prison. But you wouldn't know it was a prison letter. I mean, he's not asking for a file, or he's not asking, hey, get me out of here, anything like that. The letter that he writes to these folks radiates joy and thanksgiving. And I want to read to you how he begins chapter 4 in verse 1. This is what he says, and this gives the idea of the whole letter. He says, "Stay true to the Lord. I love you and long to see you, dear friends, for you are my joy and the crown that I receive for my work." So, and then he goes on in the verses to express his gratitude for their generous support. But more importantly, in the verses that we're going to be looking at this week, he reveals a very profound spiritual truth. He says that he has learned the secret. It's kind of an open secret. It's not a hidden secret. He said he's learned the secret of being content in every situation. And you know what his secret is? His secret is Jesus. Jesus is the secret to contentment. You know, we oftentimes, here's an application, we oftentimes equate contentment with comfort. When things are going our way, when we're comfortable and we're sitting back in the easy chair, we think, well, we're content. We're content. Fat as a tick, content. But Paul flips this idea up on its head. He learned, and that's key, learned to be content regardless of his circumstances. And the reason why he was able to be content regardless of the circumstances is because his confidence was rooted in Jesus. That's why he could be confident that he could be content in any situation. So as we journey through this topic this week, let's open up our hearts. Let's open up our minds to discover how God's power and God's provision teach us to live in peace and with contentment, no matter what. Here's our closing thought for this morning, on this Monday morning that we're rolling into like a boss. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need perfect conditions to experience perfect peace. You don't need perfect conditions to experience perfect peace. All you need is a perfect Savior. Jesus Christ is that perfect Savior. And so I hope you think about that as you go through your day today on this Monday. Enjoy the day. It's a beautiful morning, beautiful morning. I think it's supposed to get really hot today, but right now it is so fine, so nice. Y'all take care. Have a great Monday. See you again real soon, and bye for now.